Offering a property for sale, we're going to cover the OREA Form 200, the listing agreement, or seller representation agreement. We'll cover how to fill it out, the pre-printed clauses, where the seller or sellers sign, as well as us as salespeople to bind the brokerage. We'll start at the top so we can understand this form so we can simply explain it to our seller clients. Coming up. Hey, what's up guys? Callum Moore here. On this channel I share information that we need to achieve real estate success. If you haven't yet, consider subscribing. At any point during the video, check out the description below. It lists links to what we discuss, all my recommendations, and how to contact me down there. Let's get into the video. Okay, so this is a form we're going to see often, or hopefully very often. This is the start of the selling process between ourselves and our clients, or very close to the start depending on your situation, but we need to know every aspect of it, so let's start at the top. Right away at the top you have two options, MLS or exclusive. We might be getting initials from our clients on either of these, and we also could be getting them on both eventually. MLS just means if the property is going to be listed on the MLS, so meaning Realtor.ca, and we are going to be cooperating with other real estate agents. Exclusive is exactly what it sounds like. The seller wants to list exclusively with us and doesn't want their home to be on the MLS. Very rare, but it can happen from time to time. I mentioned we could be getting initials on both of these sections because a lot of the time a listing agreement is signed initially as an exclusive to start. Once agreed to be put up on the MLS and signed, it needs to be up on the MLS within 48 hours. So if I'm, for example, at a listing presentation and the seller isn't going to be selling for, let's say, 2 weeks, we will sign as an exclusive listing to start. This has two positives for both us as a registrant representing the brokerage and the seller. One, we are now representing the seller and we have signed a contract for the authority to offer the property for sale. And second, the seller's property can start to get attention from possible buyers before it even hits the MLS. Depending what brokerage you work for, having a great network of realtors that can see the property that is coming up for sale can potentially help the property being sold and find the right buyers. Below that, we have the brokerage's name and the seller's name. Remember, this is an agreement between the brokerage and the seller, and we as sales representatives bind the brokerage on their behalf. Under that, the property that is being listed for sale and the listing period. This would start on the date you plan on listing the property for sale, and a normal duration would be 3 months. Here on the right would only be initialed if the listing period agreed exceeds 6 months. So very rarely, this may never happen in your entire career as a realtor, but it seems to pop up a lot in the real estate education textbooks. Under that, we have the price agreed to list the property at, and initials required stating that the seller represents and warrants that they are not a party to any other listing agreement. So you would get them to initial here, and below that, we start our first pre-printed clause. Some of these pre-printed clauses we have seen before in the agreement of purchase and sale or the buyer representation agreement, but a lot are unique to this form, plus repetition is great for memorization, so we'll go through them all. 1. Definitions and interpretations. Quick one here, exactly what it sounds like. This just defines who will be referred to as the buyer and who will be referred to as the seller for the remainder of this document. Number 2, commissions. This one you could find yourself spending a lot of time on or very little time on. It is kind of client dependent or even realtor dependent really. But this just identifies how much commission will be paid to the listing brokerage and how much will be paid to the cooperating brokerage, if any. But 95% of the time, it will be filled out roughly like this. 5% plus HST, so the total commission of the sale of the property goes here. And here you would indicate what the cooperating brokerage will be paid, for example, 2.5%. These areas are for if you plan on doing some other form of payment, let's say a flat fee, for example. Again, very rare. As we scroll down in this clause, we get to the holdover period. Okay, so I'll explain the holdover period briefly in this video, but I go in depth with a good visual example of what the holdover period is in this video, the buyer representation agreement that I'll link right here. If you're interested, watch that video, but you could even skip to the 4-minute, 45-second point where I discuss that example in full. But in short, the holdover period, which for example, a standard period of time would be about 90 days, this period of time basically covers us for the work that we have already done. If this listing agreement were to expire and the seller now wants to sell on their own, and they actually sell the property during the holdover period to someone who viewed the property while we were marketing it, our brokerage will be compensated for the work we have done. If it's a brand new person that's been brought to the property with, say, new marketing strategies, all good, we're only covered for the work we have done. On to number 3, representation. This is the other bigger clause, and again, seen in other contracts, but practice makes perfect. This confirms that the salesperson has explained different types of agency relationships that may occur in a real estate transaction. Representation means they could be a client, they could be a customer, and we could be also in multiple representation. If you know me, when I'm explaining these videos, I try to focus on the 95+% of the time, so 95+% of the time when they are signing a listing agreement, they will be a client. Multiple representation would occur when the buyer and the seller are clients of the same brokerage. The seller will be notified and have to give written consent to the brokerage that they understand this conflict of interest. This is done prior to offers being submitted and can be documented in a form called the Confirmation of Cooperation and Representation. This basically means we are still very much there for our seller clients. We are still doing all of the work, presenting all of the information needed to make an educated decision on the sale of their property, but we can't disclose the wants or the needs of the clients involved in the transaction. And again, in these more rare situations, we will discuss this again with our seller clients and cannot proceed until other documents are reviewed and signed. Number 4, finder's fees. Bit of an older clause, but this provides consent for the salesperson to accept any finder's fees that, say, for example, a mortgage broker may offer them for a referral. Very rare. Number 5, referral of inquiries. This just means that the seller will advise us as the listing agent of any interest in the property that they should encounter. We are working together for the length of this contract to sell this property. All interested parties or offers get discussed and we work together. 6, marketing. The seller agrees to allow us to market the property and allow potential buyers to view the property during reasonable hours. Very normal stuff, and it also states that while we are advertising and marketing, it will identify the property, meaning the address and location will be advertised for people to see and know where it is. Basically, they are putting us in charge of marketing, essentially what they hired us for. Number 7, warranty. The seller warrants that they have the authority to allow us to sell the property and has informed us of anything that could prevent us from selling this property. It goes on to give us a few examples of what they mean in the clause. Any third-party interests or claims on the property, such as rights of refusal, options, easements, mortgages, encumbrances, or otherwise concerning the property which may affect the sale of the property. Basically, if they know of anything that could prevent this sale, they must tell us. 8, indemnification and insurance. This protects us as salespeople and cannot be held liable for what happens at the property. Of course, we will provide our advice. For instance, if there's going to be multiple showings or we're doing an open house, we will probably inform our sellers not to leave jewelry or cash lying around. But we are not responsible for loss or damage to the property. Number 9, Family Law Act. This is basically about if the owners are married and who's on title. The seller warrants that spousal consent is not necessary under the Family Law Act. If spousal consent is required, then the spouse will sign. Is there a non-title owner? For example, if Callum Moore is on title but Elizabeth Moore is not on title, the salesperson should ask themselves, are they spouses of one another? If so, spousal consent will be needed by the non-titled spouse for the listing of the matrimonial home. If needed, it will be signed towards the bottom of this contract below clause 16. Quick note, common law, however, in Ontario, under the Family Act, does not require spousal consent. Number 10, verification of information. This means that the seller is authorizing the brokerage of any information that affects the property and letting us, representing the brokerage, contact the city, for example, to gather information to help sell the property. This contract and clause will allow us to do that. Number 11, use and distribution of information. Very similar to the marketing clause, this clause gives us the permission to give information regarding the property to other people. Of course, everything we do is working for our seller clients with the utmost loyalty. And as you scroll down, it goes into more detail, but all very standard stuff here. Like for example, posting of any documents and other information, including without limitation to photographs, images, graphics, floor plans, designs, surveys, etc. And below that, here's where the seller can initial if they do or do not want to be contacted by, say, another real estate brokerage if this listing were to expire, for example. Real estate agents sometimes generating leads will call expired listings to see if they can provide their services and get it back on the market. Initialing here does or does not allow that. Number 12, successors and assigns. This state that heirs, estate trustees, or any other party legally acting on behalf of the seller must also abide by the terms of this agreement. If something terrible were to happen to the sellers after this property has been listed for sale, the successors and assigns would take over this agreement and continue on. Of course, this is very rare, and a major conversation would take place between us, the brokerage, the successors, and find out what's best for the family moving forward. Number 13, conflict or discrepancy. Standard clause here, if there is a schedule attached to this document, the provision written on the schedule that conflicts these pre-printed clauses will always supersede them. We'll do 14 electronic communication and 15 electronic signatures together. Electronic communication, this agreement, if necessary, may be sent via electronic means and still be binding on all parties. Emails, texts, sent and received, this will all be deemed part of the transaction. And electronic signatures means this agreement, if necessary, may be sent via electronic means and still be binding on all parties. It's 2021 at the time of this video. This will happen 95% of the time. 16, schedule. Very straightforward. If a specific form or document has been added to this agreement, it should be indicated here. Below that, we sign to bind the brokerage as well as the sellers underneath that. Their spousal consent, like mentioned before, and just below that is our declaration of insurance for errors and omissions. It's what we pay annually for. We pay this to cover ourselves and basically the sellers as well. If we were to make an error on this contract that could cost our sellers money, the sellers could take us to court to get that money lost, as we are protected up to $1 million. These insurances are good reasons for sellers to use realtors and not something they'll find in private sales. So it's nice to be protected, but of course, let's do our due diligence, like watching extra videos like this. Under that, the acknowledgement, we date and sign, and that's the Form 200 listing agreement, or sometimes referred to as the seller representation agreement. Like mentioned at the start, a form we will see often and hopefully very often. I really hope you got some value from this video, and if you're in real estate like myself to help future clients like no one else, reach out and comment below. And if you get a chance, check out this playlist right here where I go through a bunch of the contracts we'll be using most often as real estate agents here in Ontario. We'll see you there.